And it's good to be appreciated, right? I feel
Mhm.
appreciated. Bo does. Does CeeDee Lamb feel appreciated as a member of the Dallas Cowboys? Well, be the judge of that. Jerry Jones, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, was basically asked about his usage, gave some vanilla answer, nothing about overwhelmingly, let's get our number one wide receiver the football, right? They were very critical of his usage potentially during the San Francisco 49er blowout. Well, then Richard Sherman went on Skip Bayless's show. I can't even remember what it's called now, First Take or First Things First or whatever. Basically said that CeeDee Lamb's not a number one receiver. So CeeDee Lamb has taken some shots this week, which is unfair because, this podcast, we're big supporters of CeeDee Lamb, not just because he's Kyler Murray's ex-teammate, because he's a damn good football player. He should have been drafted to this franchise over Isaiah Simmons. Well, it should be noted, CeeDee Lamb does not have a new contract. He's got a fifth-year option picked up. So basically playing on a one-year deal next year, despite making a Pro Bowl last year. But he's underachieving this year because of the offense. No Kellen Moore. So that begs the question, Bo Brock. The Arizona Cardinals, assuming that they keep Kyler Murray, everything's good to go, copacetic, right? You got Hollywood Brown, he's a free agent. Would you entertain the idea of the Arizona Cardinals potentially approaching the Dallas Cowboys? CeeDee Lamb will be 25 next spring, trading for CeeDee Lamb and reuniting him with Kyler Murray. Does that do anything for you?
What would it take to get CeeDee Lamb?
I would say you would probably have to give up a 1. And you would probably have to do it with Houston. If Houston's 1, hypothetically, is like 17, 18, 19. That's probably what you're going to have to do. Stephon Diggs, once upon a time, went to Buffalo from Minnesota for like the 20-ish pick in the draft or somewhere in the 20s, right? So, again, you're not going to trade a top 12 to 15 pick for him. But I think if the Houston pick starts to fall because, CJ Stroud's a revelation, that's what it would take, in my opinion. Would you be willing to do that?
I will pass on that opportunity.
Okay.
Just because you got to give up draft capital, high draft pick, right? That coveted Houston pick that would be a player that you could turn into a starter for 5 years before you're having to extend them.
Yep.
And then the idea that you would give up that capital and then basically immediately have to sign him to a multi-year extension for wide receiver 1 type money. I'm just going to pass on that. I would much rather see what Monty Osfort can cook up in the draft than going out and spending that much on a CeeDee Lamb. I like CeeDee Lamb. I don't love CeeDee Lamb. Gotcha. He's put up good numbers. He's put up just under 1,400 yards receiving. He's been a back-to-back 1,000-yard receiver. He's, as far as double-digit touchdowns, hasn't found the end zone that many times in a single season yet. I think that he has a lot of potential that he's yet to tap into. But at the same time, I'm passing on it. It's just too pricey for me. I'm scared by the sticker price on CeeDee Lamb. I don't think it matches.
Does this change your mind? Okay. What if I told you that CeeDee Lamb took to Twitter, the Twitter streets, and changed Bo Brock his Twitter avatar photo to a picture of he and his guy, Hollywood Marquise Brown, number 5, Oklahoma Bros, taking all Cowboy associated paraphernalia off of his Twitter and then responding today. I retweeted it, laugh out loud, basically responding to the disrespect coming from Richard Sherman, maybe some of the fan base coming after CeeDee Lamb. Does this sweeten the pot a little bit? Now, it would be tough getting both Lamb and Brown under contract, but there's not part of you that is a little tempted to say, let's get the Oklahoma band back together and let's get these guys all in the desert, or are you still passing?
No, I'm still passing. It doesn't sweeten the pot, actually. It makes me, turns me off a little bit as far as bringing him. It's disgruntled in Dallas. They're not playing well. What's going to happen when things don't go right here? When we talk about what Monty Ossenfort's vision for this team was, and I don't think this matches up with it.
I agree. I wanted to lay out all the facts. These are the facts at hand.
I thought you were going to be on the other side.
I'm not. Once upon a time, I would have been all for trading for CeeDee Lamb. I think now you're getting too close to a position where you have to pay him. I mean, the Hollywood Brown's having a better year than CeeDee Lamb this year. It's like, and you're just going to let Hollywood walk and then trade for CeeDee Lamb. Plus, like, Michael Wilson is the future at this position for this team right now. He plays outside. Well, Hollywood Brown plays outside. Like, does CeeDee Lamb play the majority of his time in the slot? But, like, can you pay a big-time slot receiver that kind of money? For me, it's just the timing doesn't line up. It has nothing to do with CeeDee Lamb, the player or the person. But I think that, Kyler can have a close relationship with CeeDee Lamb, but then have his teammates and win games with Michael Wilson and Hollywood Brown and maybe Rondell Moore mixed in, maybe a Marvin Harrison Jr. or even Bo's boy, Brock Bowers. But I feel like CeeDee Lamb to me for this franchise is just, I know they like big receivers and he would fit that build, but he reminds me kind of like Amari Cooper before he went to Dallas, just an okay player for the Raiders. And then maybe he got a little bit better after his trade. He's not as good as Justin Jefferson. He went before Justin Jefferson, but he's better than Jerry Jeudy. And then obviously what happened with Henry Ruggs was tragic, but he's just he's a 1B type of receiver. He's not a top 5 to 7 guy. He's in that next tier. And for the Cardinals, I saw somebody point out in the chat, the Cardinals are not a CeeDee Lamb away and then paying him from being competitive.
That's absolutely correct. I agree with that 100%. And don't you, I mean, as much good as there has been in CeeDee Lamb's career, and he's absolutely been, the 17th overall pick in that draft, first round wide receiver. I think he's lived up to that billing, but there's also been moments where he goes missing. Like, remember the game in 2021 against Dallas? The Arizona Cardinals were struggling, and like they took CeeDee Lamb out of that game plan. And I've seen it a lot, and it's happened far too often, I think, in 2023 with Dallas and, their loss to the Cardinals. I mean, there were plays where a 6th-round rookie was able to get the best of him in one-on-one matchups and Keitrell Clark. So, he's a really good receiver. In a perfect world, like if you had a roster and he was part of your receiving core, it's great. It's probably a strong receiving core. But at the same time, are you going to give up the world in draft capital and then pay him what it's going to take to pay him? I just think it's just too rich. And Monty Ossenfort's not going to be in the CeeDee Lamb business for those reasons.
No, and again, the Cardinals can make it work with, I think, the receivers that they have. Even if they don't get Marvin Harrison Jr., and if there's a scenario in which they find a common ground with Hollywood Brown, you like where he's trending in this offense. Like, you can't dispute that. Hollywood Brown's been a good player for this team. I mean, dating back to last year even. I mean, he's contributed at a semi-high level since they acquired him. Like, would they like a mulligan on that and take Tyler Lindenbaum? Probably. But it's not like he's been a vegetable. I mean, that catch and run that last week for the touchdown, making people miss in the open field, like, you want him on your team, just like you want a CeeDee Lamb on your team. But there are very few receivers in the NFL, Bull Brock, that are worth giving up, premium picks, especially for a team like the Cardinals who need every single pick to be able to rebuild this roster to viability, right? And CeeDee Lamb, you know what he is? He's a luxury the Arizona Cardinals just can't afford. The Cardinals are pinching pennies. They're going to the grocery store, and it's like, I really need Nutella, or should I just get, the essentials for my family? I really want this Pez dispenser, but you know what? Let's just get the eggs today, right? At the end of the day, that's what CeeDee Lamb is. So, but CeeDee Lamb gets brought up on the Twitter streets with this fan base, and I get the fascination of CeeDee Lamb, Hollywood Brown, Kyler Murray. Like, I'm not numb to that, naive to that. Here's what I will say, though. Michael Wilson has made things much easier for Cardinal fans to stomach, because this franchise, before Michael Wilson arrived, and knock on wood, he's still got to complete the season and be a trending up player, which I think he will be. This franchise could not develop receivers, right? And the guys that they did develop left, in Christian Kirk and John Brown. So I got the fascination of, let's just get all Kyler Murray's college buddies back together. We'll do that in Arizona. I think now it's like, let's just let Monty Ossenfort find receivers like Michael Wilson and company in the draft and then pay them no money. And then while you're paying Kyler Murray $45 to $50 million. So I'd be a hypocrite if I came on here and said, well, you can't pay Kyler Murray, but then you also have to get CeeDee Lamb and give him an extension. Just the timing doesn't add up.
Right. Yeah. It just, when you're facing this part of the rebuild, you got to focus your draft capital on those premium positions and fill out a roster that way. And you've had some good success early on finding those wide receiver. You found a wide receiver in the 3rd round. You've got some decent guys on your roster. And then you look at the upcoming draft, and they're intriguing prospects outside of Marvin Harrison Jr. Like, if MHJ becomes available to you, it's a slam dunk, right? You take the big 6'3" wide receiver, and we talk about it more on tomorrow's, PHNX Cardinals draft podcast. You got his teammate, there in Ohio State too, who's 6'1", 205. You got a kid out of Florida State, Keon Coleman, who's 6'4". It's like they're big-bodied wide receivers that Monty Austinfort's going to do his homework on and be able to lock into potentially to a 4 to 5 year rookie contract that would look great in Cardinal white and red.
Yeah, I mean, Cardinals have so many picks, it should be illegal